Pay close attention to what is being shared right now, because this is not just background noise that you can ignore. Something is rising up from the deeper layers of your inner mind, something that has been refusing to stay buried beneath the surface any longer. There is a person in your life whose presence has not faded from within you, even if their voice has grown quiet on the outside. In the language of the deeper mind, silence is never truly empty. It is filled with meaning, with tension, and with messages that are waiting to be properly understood by those willing to look beneath what is visible. And here is what matters. The strong sense of urgency you are carrying right now is not happening by accident. It is your inner mind attempting to build a bridge across a gap that ordinary words have not been able to cross on their own. Whatever we do not face and deal with at a conscious level will eventually show up in our lives wearing the disguise of fate. Right now, something is working to bring a specific emotion, a specific truth, a specific moment of understanding to the surface. This is coming from someone who has been connected to you in a way that goes beyond the ordinary. This person may not currently have the courage or the inner clarity needed to express what they are carrying in a direct and open way, but their inner world is very much in motion beneath the stillness they show on the outside. Their silence is not a sign that they feel nothing. It is a sign of inner conflict. Their distance is not absence. It is a form of reflection happening somewhere they have not yet found words for. You may have already begun to notice certain things that feel slightly out of the ordinary. Perhaps certain dreams have carried a particular weight. Perhaps specific thoughts about this person have arrived without any clear invitation. Perhaps memories have surfaced at unexpected moments. Perhaps there has been a pull toward them that you cannot fully explain through reason alone. These are not random events happening by chance. They are signals coming from the deeper layers of the mind, both your own and theirs, that are attempting to move toward alignment with each other. Stop for a second and think about this, because it changes everything. When two people share a psychological bond that has real depth, their inner worlds begin to find ways of communicating that go beyond what physical interaction or spoken language can carry. That is precisely where the real message lives, not inside spoken words, not inside messages or phone calls, but inside felt experience, inside what you feel when you think about them at 3 in the morning. There is something this person wants you to understand, something they were not capable of saying before this point. Perhaps they misread who you truly were. Perhaps they ran from something that frightened them because they did not yet have the inner strength required to stand still and face it. But now, in the space created by your pulling back or by your silence, they are beginning to see things more clearly than before. Your withdrawal has functioned as a kind of mirror, one that is pressing them to face their own emotions, their own fears, and the truth they spent time moving away from. Do not simply let this moment pass by unacknowledged, not because you need to rush into some kind of action, but because a certain quality of awareness is being asked of you right now. To ignore what you are genuinely feeling in this moment is to push down a part of your own inner self that is actively trying to guide you somewhere important. This does not mean you should chase after this person or try to force something into being. In fact, the situation works in the opposite direction from that entirely. The real power here belongs to your stillness, to your awareness, to your ability to simply observe what is unfolding without throwing yourself into blind reaction. The message this person is sending is not necessarily something as straightforward as "come back" or "I miss you." It operates at a much greater depth than that. It is about realization. It is about them arriving at an understanding of how significant your presence truly was, how deep the connection between you genuinely ran, and what it cost them to move away from something real. But realization on its own is not enough to settle everything. They are still working their way through their own inner chaos. What matters in this moment is where you are standing within yourself. Have you looked honestly at your own emotions? Have you reached a real understanding of what this connection means to you that goes beyond simple desire or the pain of attachment? Because this moment is not only about them and what is happening inside them, it is equally about you moving into a deeper and more honest relationship with your own inner life. When you truly understand yourself and what moves within you, you naturally develop a more accurate understanding of the entire dynamic that exists between you and this other person. The urgent message that is trying to reach you is not something you will find by reading words or listening to sounds. It is something you encounter through feeling. It lives in the tension, in the pull, in those quiet, unguarded moments when your mind drifts back toward this person without any apparent reason or trigger. That is where truth finds its voice. And if you are willing to receive what it is saying, not through fear, not through expectation, but through simple open awareness, you will begin to understand what is genuinely being communicated beneath the surface of everything. Do not let this pass unexamined, not because it is demanding that you take immediate action, but because it deserves to be properly understood. There is a powerful emotional message making its way toward you. It is not arriving through direct statements, but through quiet shifts in energy, through silences that carry weight, and through a form of inner awareness that you have likely been sensing for some time, without quite being able to name what it was. This kind of message does not arrive in loud or obvious ways. It surfaces quietly, often appearing when you are alone with your own thoughts or when something in your day unexpectedly reaches out and reminds you of this particular person. The unconscious mind expresses itself through symbols, through emotions, and through patterns that repeat, rather than through the kind of direct language our waking minds prefer. What you are moving through right now is not accidental in any sense. It is a form of psychological communication, operating on a level that lies beyond everyday interaction. The person who shares this deep connection with you is very likely in the middle of an inner struggle where their genuine feelings are beginning to push their way to the surface. Even though they are not yet in a place where they can express those feelings outwardly to anyone, their silence may seem difficult to understand from where you are standing, but it often holds far more meaning than any spoken words could carry, because it reflects a process of real inner realization that is quietly taking place within them. You might be feeling an unusual pull in their direction, a sudden rise of memory, a sense that something between you that was never fully resolved is trying to find its way back into your awareness. And listen to me when I say this. These feelings should not be pushed away or written off as the imagination doing something unhelpful. Instead, they are signals. They are pointing towards something meaningful that is unfolding beneath the visible surface of things. The human mind does not release significant emotional bonds with ease or speed. When something important has been left unspoken or unresolved between two people, it has a way of returning again and again in quiet and subtle forms, until it finally receives the acknowledgement it has been waiting for. This is the reason why setting these inner signals aside can produce a restless feeling, a background sense of emotional tension, as though something remains unfinished that the mind will not allow to simply be dropped. The message trying to reach you may not be something as simple as an apology or a confession of feeling. It may be something deeper than either of those things. It may be this person beginning to genuinely understand the value of what they once had access to through you. They may be going back through past moments and looking at them through different eyes. They may be recognizing choices they made that now look different to them in hindsight. They may be feeling your absence pressing against them with an intensity they were not prepared for, and at the same time, they may be genuinely uncertain about whether to reach toward you or how they possibly could, which creates a wall between what moves through them internally and what they allow themselves to show on the outside. This kind of internal conflict tends to express itself as silence, as distance, as indirect signals that are genuinely difficult to read and interpret from the outside. However, what is being asked of you in this moment is not to chase after clarity or try to extract it from them. What is being asked is that you stay connected to your own emotional state and remain attentive to the signals you are already receiving. Awareness gives you the ability to watch what is happening without being swallowed by it, to understand without lurching into impulsive reaction, and to recognize the deeper meaning living inside what is unfolding around and within you. When you develop this kind of conscious awareness of the subtle messages arriving in your direction, you begin to understand that they are not about urgency or control. They are about understanding and about two inner worlds finding their way toward alignment with each other. This is why the feeling of urgency exists, not because immediate action is required of you, but because something is attempting to reach your awareness before it slips back beneath the surface into the unconscious, where it becomes much harder to access. There is someone connected to you who is currently living inside a deep internal conflict, a tension between what they genuinely feel and what they are actually capable of expressing to another person. And this tension runs far more intensely beneath their surface than anything visible from the outside might suggest. Their silence is not indifference. It is not a deliberate choice to stay away from you. It is a reflection of something that remains unresolved within their own inner world. The human mind tends to pull away from emotions that feel too big or too threatening to face directly. It chooses to push them down or to create distance from them, rather than standing still and allowing them to be fully felt. But what is pushed down does not vanish. It gathers strength inside the unconscious and waits for the moment when it can rise again. This is exactly what is happening with this person right now. They are being drawn into a process of inner realization that they cannot easily sidestep, and it is bringing them face to face with emotions they may have been denying, avoiding or misunderstanding for a considerable period of time. At the same time, your own shift in energy, whether that has taken the form of distance, of silence, or of simply changing how you show up in relation to them, has acted as a catalyst that has triggered this inner awakening within them. When you step back from someone, you take with you the comfort and the warmth they had grown used to relying on, and in that space created by your absence, they are left alone with what they actually feel. This creates a kind of psychological mirror. They begin to see with new clarity what your presence genuinely meant to them and what your absence is now revealing about themselves and their own choices. It is often only when something is no longer easily available that a person discovers its real value, and this kind of realization can be both deeply powerful and genuinely unsettling at the same time. They may find themselves returning to old memories and looking at them differently. They may be going back over past moments in the connection and reinterpreting what happened there. They may be questioning choices they once felt entirely sure about. This internal process is not a comfortable one to move through, which is why they may continue to appear silent or distant, even as their inner world becomes increasingly active and emotionally charged beneath that surface stillness. You might begin to notice this shift in them, not through anything they say directly, but through subtle things that resist simple logical explanation. There may be moments when their presence appears strongly within your thoughts, even without any obvious external trigger. There may be emotions that rise in you without a clear cause that you can point to. These experiences are not random. They are a reflection of the deep psychological connection that continues to exist between you even in the absence of regular contact or conversation. When two people share a bond of genuine meaning, their inner worlds can remain linked even when verbal or physical contact has been significantly reduced. This is why their internal struggle can in a certain sense be felt by you as well. It is not about mysterious thinking. It is about the way emotional connections of real depth leave lasting marks on the inner world of a person that do not simply disappear when circumstances change. Their conflict also carries fear at its center. Fear of reaching out, fear of being rejected, fear of discovering that what they felt was one-sided, fear of admitting they were wrong about you or about what happened between you. This fear is real and it is powerful, and it is what keeps them locked in that place of silence, even as everything inside them is screaming that something needs to change. But here is what you need to know. That fear does not mean they do not care. That distance does not mean they have stopped thinking about you. That silence does not mean they have moved on. It means they are trapped in their own internal struggle between wanting to reach toward you and being terrified of what might happen if they do. The signals are there if you are willing to see them. The messages are arriving if you are willing to receive them. And the connection is still very much alive, even if it has gone quiet on the surface. What you are experiencing right now, this pull, this urgency, this weight of something unresolved, it is real. It is not your imagination. It is not wishful thinking. It is a genuine form of communication happening at a depth that goes beyond what words can carry. Your job in this moment is not to chase. Your job is not to beg or to convince or to force anything into being. Your job is to become clear within yourself about what you truly feel, about what this connection has meant to you, and about what you are genuinely willing to move toward or away from. When you stand in that clarity, something shifts. When you stop waiting for them to make a move and instead become grounded in your own emotional truth, you create a different kind of pull. You create a space where real connection can actually happen, because it is no longer coming from desperation or need. It is coming from genuine understanding. It is coming from two people who have both done their own inner work and are finally ready to see each other clearly. That is what this moment is really about. Not about getting them back. Not about proving something. Not about winning some kind of emotional game. It is about two inner worlds finally recognizing each other for what they truly are. It is about understanding running deeper than words. It is about connection that has never actually broken, only gone quiet for a time. And it is about you being willing to see what is really happening beneath the surface and to respond to it with the kind of awareness and consciousness that actually changes things. The message that is trying to reach you is not something you will find in logical thinking. It is something you will find in stillness. It is something you will find when you stop fighting against what you are feeling and instead allow yourself to truly feel it. It is something you will find in that quiet space between your thoughts where the real truth of your inner world lives. Stay there, pay attention, let the signals reach you, and when they do, receive them not with fear, but with the kind of open awareness that sees what is actually happening and understands what needs to happen next. This is your moment, not because someone else is making it your moment, but because you are finally ready to see what has always been there beneath the surface, waiting for you to notice it and respond to it with the full consciousness of who you really are. There's something happening inside them right now, something they're not telling you yet. The fear of being truly vulnerable with another person, the fear of rejection, the fear of standing in front of you with their whole heart exposed. These fears build walls, big ones. And even when they know what they're feeling, even when something inside them has become crystal clear, something else holds them back. They want to reach toward you. They want to find a way to express everything they've been carrying. But something within them keeps creating this cycle. Hesitation, reflection, more hesitation, back and forth, back and forth. This is why their behavior seems to shift, why it's hard to make sense of. One moment things feel clear and real, the next moment doubt rushes back in and clouds everything. Here's what you need to understand. Their silence does not mean nothing is happening. It means the opposite. It means something of genuine significance is unfolding inside them, something that needs time and inner space before it can be fully processed and understood. This is the part most people miss. What you're experiencing cannot be explained through rational thinking alone. It goes beyond what the conscious mind can account for. It enters the deeper layers of the inner world, where meaning is felt rather than analyzed or categorized. There are dimensions of human connection that exist within the unconscious. Shared experiences, emotional imprints, authentic moments. These create bonds that distance cannot break, that time cannot erase. What you're feeling is rooted in that deeper space. Two people who have become psychologically woven together through moments of genuine vulnerability and emotional truth. This is why the connection does not go quiet, even when silence surrounds it. It continues beneath the surface. It shapes thoughts, it influences emotions, it affects behavior in ways you can't always recognize. But this moment represents something more than just a continuation. It's a psychological turning point, a shift where both of you are being moved toward a greater, more honest awareness of who you really are. These turning points don't arrive with clear signs or instructions, but they carry an internal sense of importance that you feel even when you can't explain it. Your perspective is beginning to shift. You're starting to ask different questions, not just about what this connection means emotionally, but about who you're becoming through it, what it's teaching you about yourself. This isn't happening without reason. When the deeper mind begins to surface something important, it does so in a way that demands your attention, even when it doesn't immediately provide the clarity you're looking for. For the other person, this turning point may feel even more pressing, because they're likely confronting parts of themselves that have gone unexamined for a long time. Your presence in their life and now your changed energy or your absence has disturbed the patterns they settled into. They've been moved into a space where reflection is unavoidable. They may be understanding for the first time how their own fears and insecurities shaped the way they behaved toward you, the way they handled what existed between you. This kind of realization isn't comfortable. It asks something difficult. It asks them to own emotions they may have previously ignored or sent in your direction. You're being guided through this differently. Rather than being pulled into confusion, you're being invited into awareness, seeing the connection clearly for what it is, while understanding that your purpose here is not to control the outcome, not to push toward what you want. The deeper invitation is toward balance, feeling the reality of the connection without losing yourself inside it, understanding its significance without becoming dependent on whether it resolves. This is where real psychological growth happens, when you can observe what's unfolding within you and around you without being driven into impulsive reaction by what you see. The sense of urgency comes from this. These turning points do not remain in their most intense form indefinitely. They're windows where insight becomes more reachable, where emotions move closer to the surface, where meaningful change becomes genuinely possible. If you don't engage with this window, the connection doesn't disappear, but it may settle back into the unconscious, where it becomes much harder to understand and work with. This is why your awareness matters right now. It allows you to be present with what's happening at real depth rather than letting the moment pass through you unnoticed. Setting aside the intuitive signals rising within you may feel like the path of least resistance, especially when what you're feeling arrives without clear explanations attached to it. But doing so can delay an important emotional and psychological opening that's genuinely trying to happen. These signals are not meaningless. They're quiet communications from the deeper layers of your own mind, guiding you towards something that requires your full attention and presence. The inner mind is always seeking balance. When something significant remains unresolved within it, it finds ways to bring that thing back into conscious awareness. It happens through feelings that resist being pushed aside, through thoughts that keep returning, through moments where your attention is pulled back to a specific person or experience without any obvious reason. When you choose to look away from these signals, you're not making them disappear. You're simply returning them to the unconscious, where they continue working beneath the surface, influencing you in ways that are harder to track. This creates a persistent background feeling of something being unfinished, incomplete. Even when you try to convince yourself that everything is resolved, the mind does not release what it considers important without genuine reason. It brings the same feelings and themes back into awareness again and again until they receive the understanding they've been asking for. This is why this person may appear in your thoughts at times when nothing around you invited that. These aren't distractions, they're invitations asking you to pay closer attention to something that matters. There's something deeper at stake when these signals are consistently ignored, the loss of clarity about your own inner life. When you push away what you genuinely feel, you gradually lose connection with your own inner guidance. Over time, this makes it harder to know what's genuinely meaningful. It can lead to growing confusion where your own perceptions and instincts feel less trustworthy. In contrast, when you allow yourself to acknowledge what's rising within you without immediately acting on it, you create the inner space necessary for understanding to develop in its own time, at its own pace. Awareness does not demand action. It asks for presence. It means allowing yourself to notice what you feel, to sit with it without judgment, to consider what it might be pointing you toward. What's unfolding between you and this person is not limited to surface interaction or ordinary emotional attachment. It's rooted in a much deeper layer, a place where connections form beyond the reach of conscious awareness and deliberate decision. This kind of bond doesn't depend on words or actions or physical presence alone. It exists within the unconscious, where shared experiences and emotional imprints and meanings that were never fully resolved continue to interact and communicate across time. The unconscious mind holds patterns and connections that quietly shape how we see our relationships in ways we don't always recognize. When a connection reaches this level of depth, it operates differently. It's no longer simply bound by logic or immediate circumstances. It's sustained by the depth of genuine psychological resonance that exists between two people. You've probably noticed this. Despite distance or silence, or even your own sincere attempts to move forward with your life, something keeps drawing your attention back in the direction of this person. This isn't simply habit. It isn't the pull of memory. It's the result of a connection that has woven itself into the fabric of your inner world. Such connections form when there's been genuine and significant exchange of authenticity, of vulnerability, of emotional truth between two people. These moments leave a kind of mark that doesn't fade easily, because they reach parts of the inner self that are rarely touched in ordinary interactions. This is why the connection feels persistent, as though it has a life and momentum entirely its own, continuing to exist even when all external communication has stopped. For the other person, this same depth of connection can feel both powerful and completely overwhelming. They may not fully understand why they feel what they feel, why your presence continues to shape their thoughts and emotional state in your absence. This lack of understanding can lead them toward confusion, toward avoidance, even toward denial as they attempt to make rational sense of something that doesn't fit neatly into their usual way of thinking. But the unconscious does not require conscious understanding to keep functioning. It continues to process what's significant. It brings things forward regardless of whether it's being consciously acknowledged. This is why their feelings keep resurfacing, even when they've done everything they know how to suppress or step away from them. This moment carries urgent energy within it, not because something external is pressing you toward immediate action, but because internally both of you are approaching a significant psychological turning point, a moment that cannot be passed over without consequence. These turning points tend to emerge when the deeper mind begins bringing truths to the surface that have been hidden or avoided for a considerable time. They're moments where clarity becomes genuinely accessible, but only for those willing to remain present and aware with what's unfolding, rather than looking away from it. The window is open right now, and it won't stay open indefinitely. What you choose to do with this awareness, with these signals, with this moment, that matters more than you might realize.